फेसबुक पे टाइप कर दो। नहीं मेरे को नहीं।
I will request everybody to go on mute.
दरवाजा खोल दो। हाँ दरवाजा खोल दो, एग्जॉस्ट बंद कर दो।
Okay, Rajesh ji, over to you. We are live now, sir. Rajesh ji.
Okay, so good morning once again to all present here. I, Dr. Rajesh Tiwari, Director, United College of Education, Greater Noida, affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, welcome you all today in this FDP on the role of emotional intelligence in career. I welcome our esteemed resource persons, Dr. Rahul Johari ji, Rotarian Sunita Khanna ma'am, Lieutenant Colonel Pradeep Bhatia ji, and Mr. Shailesh Gupta ji. I'm sure deliberations by our esteemed resource persons will enrich the participant faculties with the understanding of emotional intelligence and its significance in our career and our life. I take this opportunity to introduce our esteemed resource person, Dr. Rahul Johari ji. Dr. Rahul Johari is teaching at University School of Information and Communication Technology, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, India. He is PhD from Department of Computer Science, University of Delhi. Presently, he is the head of Software Development Cell and head and founder of Swinger, which stands for Security Wireless IoT Network Group of Engineering and Research Lab, and ACM at USICT chapter. He is also a Microsoft certified professional and ODEM certified blockchain faculty. He was awarded with Best Teacher Researcher Award at Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University for the academic year 2013-14 and 2014-15. He is a recipient of FRGS Faculty Research Grant Scheme, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University for the academic year 2016-17, 2017-18, 18-19, and 19-20. He was also chosen for Albert Nelson Marquis Achievement Award for the year 2018-19 for professional excellence in the field of computer science. He has 4 international patents published to his credit. His 5 research papers have been adjudged as best research paper in international conferences. He has delivered over 50 keynote invited talks in reputed foreign universities like Mother Churchill College, Nanyang Technical University, Singapore, Advanced Information Science Research Center, China, and in Indian government universities and research organizations like NITER, Chandigarh, NIT, Hamirpur, CDAC, Noida, IIPA, JNU, DTU, Delhi University, JP University, Manav Rachna International University, Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, Shobhit University, GLA University, Mathura, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee University, Ranchi, ABES Engineering College, ITS Engineering College, Hindustan College of Science and Technology, DAV College, Chalgotia Engineering College, Arbindo College, Hansraj College, Delhi University, LDIT, Alwar, and many other prestigious colleges. With 71 Scopus Index publications, 20 book chapters, and over 100 publications in IEEE, Springer, Elsevier, and ACM Index international conferences and journals of repute, he is having a current index of 12. So we are really delighted to have you with us, sir. We welcome you. And to begin this session, first of all, I request Dr. Rahul Johari ji to share with us the experiences of managing the emotional intelligence in the current era of emotional trauma for students and faculties in the Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. So over to you, Rahul Johari, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh ji. At the outset, I would like to thank you first for organizing a webinar on such an important topic for the students as well as for the faculty members. As you just read my profile, I'm a high-tech guy, lacking more of a emotional intelligence, but more of IQ level as such. So when you called me up for the first time and told me about this webinar, I was really excited about it. So in the initial level, I would like to share about the GGS IPU's initiative, what all we have done in the times of COVID for the benefit of the students in the last 3 months. Because as we are all aware, these are the challenging times for everyone, teaching, fraternity, as well as for the student, and more probably for the students as such. Because we are all mature enough to handle these kind of situations in our life, but students are not molded. They have not been groomed. And especially when we talk of the BTech and the MTech students. yes, students from the arts and humanities are much more capable to handle these rather than the students from the IT and the CSC backgrounds. Because in these branches, we require students who are highly IQ level oriented. So that is why they struggle when they face these kind of the situations in their life. So I will share a small slide regarding our initiatives at the IP University, so that those people who are not from the IP University can actually see our initiatives. Rajesh, is it visible?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, let me share once again.
Yeah, visible, sir, now.
Right, great. So this is what we have all gathered here, learning about the emotional intelligence and sharing our own feedbacks as well as discussions with each other. So first of all, I Googled it from where it originated, because that's a curiosity that actually comes into my mind. So it dates back to way back in 1964. So the communication of the emotional meaning, and that was a research paper published by the members of Department of Psychology from the College of Columbia University. And it was led by the professor Michael Baldock. So they were the first person who actually coined the word of the emotional intelligence, but it gained popularity primarily by the work of the Daniel Goleman, because he wrote the book primarily by the same name as the emotional intelligence as such. Now, coming back to the university's initiative, so in the COVID scenario, starting from the April, May, June, and now going on July, we have got a Directorate of Student Welfare, DSW, and we've got an NSS branch in our university. So they have been primarily surging ahead and taking initiative for organizing this different small programs for the benefit of the students from all the departments as such. So one of them was the aptitude class. It was organized by one of my very good friend called Syan Chatterjee. Then we have got a very good seminar on the letting go of the past, which was organized on 28th June by Dr. E.V. Swaminathan, in which he shared how the bad memories or the agonies of the past can be forgetful by taking a surge ahead in the future as well. A very good initiative by them. Then I got another good friend, Brahmapal Singh, from one of the GGSIP affiliated colleges, TIPS, Trinity Institute of Professional Studies. So University School of Education organized a program called Ayurveda for the Healthy Life. Then there was another aptitude session by Dr. E.V. Girish. It was organized on 5th of July by the NSS branch of our IP University for the benefit of the students, wherein they can learn how the attitude, gratitude can be achieved much more higher with the good skill of the happiness. And happiness is something which, though it comes by default, but it cannot be possessed by everyone as such, because you require a lot more inside you to be actually happy in any given scenario as such. And these initiatives were primarily boosted by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mahesh Verma, and our Registrar, Shri Ravi Dadich, because they have been the backbone behind organizing all these seminars and workshops for the benefit of the faculty members as well as the students. Then there was another good talk by our USICT's GATE CSC topper in 2020. His name is Hitesh Popli. He is All India topper this year. So we connected our IT and CSC and ECE students to him so that he can share his feedback, how to prepare well for the GATE 2021, which is going to happen next year in the month of February. So that was a very good, useful talk for the students as well. Because nowadays, majority of the students are at home. And as per the UGC guidelines, most of the intermediate semester exams are not going to take place. Only the final year exams are going to take place. And that too, we are not sure. Yes, some guidelines have come. We are moving towards it, but then only time will tell. But yes, in our university, we have we have come out with the date sheet regarding the final year exams, and that to the dissertation part, not the end term theory exams as such. So since most of the students are at home, so it was good enough that we should connect them to their seniors or to the alumni also. We have organized certain alumni talks also, wherein the alumni from the industry can share what all problems they are facing. Because most of what we have seen, most of the IT and CSC and EC students are good in IQ skills, because they crack JEE mains, they crack the JEE advanced. So, and most probably in 11th and 12th, they keep on going through physics, chemistry, and math sessions. And that as a result, their IQ level increases very fast and very sharp they become as such. But over a period of time, what we have observed when we interact with the alumni in alumni meets, it's their EQ quotient which has actually gone down over a period of time. So somewhere our science as a stream, basically subjects like physics, chemistry, and maths make them much more technically smarter and intelligent and sharper. But somewhere they, over the period of time, the EQ skills keep on degrading them, and it happens unknowingly. Even they are not aware of it. So when they face the real problems in life, after they have graduated from the colleges and the university, and they move towards the professional life, get married, move into the personal life, and since the EQ quotient have been degrading unknowingly because they have been working so long, working for 14 to 16 hours in IT companies, doing coding, writing algorithms, solving problems. So these things helps to increase my mind sharpness, no doubt about that. But EQ quotient unknowingly goes down, and that is where the real problem actually comes. And it happens very unknowingly. Nobody would like to degrade his EQ, but it happens in such an environment that unknowingly they suffer for it. And later on they do realize about it, no doubt about that. This is another good talk we organized, digital detoxification, around 12th of July, just a few days back, wherein Dr. Balakishore from the IIT Delhi came and very good talk about it, how to, about the digital detoxification, both the pros and the cons for it. Then tomorrow on the 19th of July, we are organizing another seminar called the Crack the Success Code for the benefit of the students as such. So as to, and Dr. Aditya Singhal will be joining us from Dynamic Minds Group. So she will be sharing her own secret mantras, how to get more success for the students as such. So common question, but what I have observed by my BTech grads is, why does emotional intelligence matter? Because when you talk to them in the third year or the fourth year, they don't realize the value of it. They say just a waste of time. Why to go through the sessions, or why to go through the seminars and topic that talks more of the EQ and less of the IQ as such. So there is a Goldman mixed model approach, which gives us 5 factors. We talk of self-awareness, empathy, motivation, self-regulation, and the social skills as such. Now, if we look at the students today, of all these 5 factors, they are good in self-awareness. Rather, they are much more smarter and sharper than what we were at their times as such. Because social medias are there, they are exposed to technologies, so awareness is very, very high as such. Then if you look at the motivation, motivation is also good. They are highly motivated. They know what they would like to become in their life, what career path they would like to choose, and how to move ahead on that career path. So they are motivated. That is what my experience is. Social skills, yes, they possess very good social skills. Almost every one of them is very active on the social media platforms. They've got innumerable number of virtual friends. They are active on Twitter, they're active on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you name the social platform, they are active on those platforms. And they're highly connected to each other as such. So they are good, they possess very excellent social skills as such. Now the 2 factors which I have circled here as red color, what they're lacking is empathy and self-regulation. Now self-regulation comes over a period of time. It is something which is not imbibed us toward by birth. It requires a lot of discipline, a lot of meditation maybe, to control your feelings, to control your emotions, because discipline does not come by default. It has to be trained, and that's why most of the schools which were there in our time were highly disciplined than what we see in today's time, because most of my kids are almost outgrown from the schools, and I've seen their schooling. So our schools at that time were much more highly disciplined as compared to the schools today. So discipline is something which will definitely lead to the self-regulation. And I think even if schools don't teach, the families come first. The parents, they are the backbone of the families. So self-regulation has to come, self-discipline has to come first from the parent side, then yes, school teachers, and then yes, we as the university teachers. So all of us have a very important role to play in the grooming of a student as such, so that he becomes a person or an engineer with a very good high IQ as well as with the EQ skills. Another thing which I have found is lacking is something called the empathy. They don't easily understand the problem of the others, what the other person is actually going through. Because when we see in our university, we have a class of 60 students, or maybe at times after the OBC quota has come, the class strength has gone to 70 as such. So as a teacher, it's very difficult to find out who is lacking EQ skills and who is finding a problem in his personal life. Because unlike this, because if you see the school teachers are groomed. This is what my experience is, and they can quick enough spot out the students who lack the EQ skills or who have got emotional problems as such. But in university teaching, we are more focused on tools and technologies and programmings and databases. And now what all we have come, the IoTs and the blockchain technology, we are highly focused on imparting the knowledge of these technologies to students. And we don't get enough time to actually go into the problems, what problems are they might be facing in hostel life, or the problem they might be facing in the departments. So neither we are able to get the enough time, neither the students are coming forward, because now they're grown up. So they are into themselves as such. But in school times, yes, they're able to much more share the problems with their parents as well as with the teachers. So I think the empathy factor is lacking, because at times, most of the time it happens that one of the students is having a problem and the other students of the class are not even aware about it, leave alone the teachers as such, though they are intermingling on the daily basis. Because nobody goes into personal life, that what are the problems they are facing, which I think should be one of the key factors if you would really like to improve the emotional intelligence. And that is why I thanked Dr. Rajesh Tiwari for taking such an initiative for organizing this panel discussion on the emotional intelligence that will help the student to shape their careers. So that is all from my side. Over to you, Dr. Rajesh Tiwari. Dr. Rajesh, are you able to listen?
Dr. Rajesh, you are on mute right now. Dr. Rajesh, you are on mute.
Yeah, okay, I got it now. So we are thankful to you, sir. You have given us the crux of the matter with the AI and EI, because you are the artificial intelligence and the IT expert. So if what we listen from you is actually going to impact us in long term. So we are privileged to have with us our esteemed resource person and role model, Rotarian Sunita Khanna ma'am, director.
Sir, Rahulji, can you unshare the slide deck, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, back to you, Dr. Rajesh.
Okay, so so we are very privileged to have with us, and we welcome our esteemed resource person and panelist, our role model, Rotarian Sunita Khanna ma'am, Director, Oriental Security and Allied Services, a security and facility management company. Sunita Khanna ma'am may be the first woman to start and run a security company way back in early 1980s. She received her education from Springdale's, Delhi and Loreto Convent, Kolkata. Besides the manpower, her forte was troubleshooting and resolving conflict in large industrial setups. Her motto being, "There's nothing that cannot be resolved with dialogue." With offices in Delhi, UP, Haryana, Punjab, MP, and Himachal Pradesh, she got into counseling and training of youth during the course of recruiting them for her company. Sunita ma'am is a multifaceted personality. She has a great love for music as well. She has done Sangeet Visharad from Gandharva Mahavidyalaya. Besides music, she has also dubbed in the field of Ayurveda counseling, dabbled in the field of Ayurveda counseling, theater, storytelling, and many more. An avid reader also, which she combined with her experiences and has delivered motivational talks from various platforms like Rotary, educational institutions like ILM University, on topics like attitude and how it aids productivity. The concept is addressing fears and problems by going back to ancient wisdom, which is like a light at the end of the tunnel. She has worked actively towards social causes and supported them by organizing seminars and cultural events like South Asia Goodwill Summit, attended by premiers and ambassadors of many countries, for cancer, educational awards presided over by Chief Justice of India, supported kids inmates of Tihar jail, street children, and autistic children supported by actor Sushma Sheth, geriatric care supported by UNICEF. So we are highly obliged by your presence, ma'am. We welcome you. And I take this opportunity to also welcome our esteemed panelist, Lieutenant Colonel Pradeep Bhatia. He will add the defense and army's perspective on emotional intelligence. That is a unique perspective, because we all know army whenever in times of trouble, we all look forward to the army. So Lieutenant Colonel Pradeep Bhatia is an ex-army officer with about 30 years service in Indian Army, where he served in an infantry battalion. While in the army, he has been posted all over India, including 2 foreign military tenures in New Zealand and Israel. Since taking early retirement from the army in 2006, he has been abroad in the USA on a work visa for about 9 years, working for a large logistics company there. Since his return from the USA about 5 years ago, he has been working in the field of education in various locations all over India, in different institutions, working as their English faculty and soft skills trainer. Lieutenant Colonel Pradeep Bhatia is also an acclaimed motivational speaker and a corporate trainer. So we welcome you, sir. And now the session will be moderated by Mr. Shailesh Gupta ji, who is the inspirational guru and ideation coach. So before I hand over to Mr. Shailesh Gupta, sir, I would just like to throw some light on his glorious past and achievements, because this idea basically for this topic came into my mind from his different webinars and sessions that he has done on emotional intelligence. So thank you, sir, for giving me this inspiration. So Shailesh sir has been a seasoned mentor, motivational speaker, leadership consultant since 29 years in the industry. As a certified leadership facilitator, he has facilitated behavioral, cross-culture, leadership competency, customized workshops since 12 years. Strongly believes in people for developing leaders of tomorrow. Shailesh has presented in global conferences and conducted workshops for innovation and value addition ideation sessions. He is certified ideation coach from Cornell University of US and has been recognized as best coach and innovation evangelist. He has been virtual CEOs for MSMEs in sustaining and growing their business with offerings of Gatiman business. He has touched lives of directly 20,000 plus people and more than 4 lakh employees. He is a gold medalist in BE, Computer Science and Engineering from RVCE Bangalore, post-graduation in Strategic Business Management from XLRI Jamshedpur, specialization in Financial Management from IGNU, and has worked for various blue chip companies like CDOT, JK, Technosoft, HCL Group, and has got multiple exposures in industries like IT, ITS, telecom, mobility, IoT, big data, BFSI, auto, aeronautics, healthcare, tourism, manufacturing in products, services, and many more. So we are delighted with your presence here, sir. So I welcome Mr. Shailesh Gupta, sir, and I hand over to you, sir, for the moderation of the panel discussion.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. I really thanks for this humble introduction. I believe I am humbled to basically hear all those things sometimes. But I believe in front of the panelists, the esteemed panelists right here, and getting this opportunity, I would like to greet all of you with a namaskar. My dear friends, I believe this is a gesture which I have been following since last 12 years. But little did it happen that I didn't know that this is what exactly will become the new normal today in the last 5 months. And the whole world is today trying to do this colorful gesture of namaskar. So once again, namaskar to all of you, all the friends present here during the meeting of the Zoom, as well as the friends on the live session. I believe from the UCE as well as the 3SRC page, all of you are welcome, in fact, in that. And I would once again welcome all of our esteemed panelists. In fact, it's a great opportunity and it's a privilege for me to be the moderator for today's session. And absolutely, this topic is so dear to me. And Rajesh ji brought in a very, very interesting angle. And I want to just coin that. He talked about AI and EI. AI and EI, artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence. So one is the technological, the IQ part of it, the other is the emotional intelligence. And interestingly, both the people in my company who are AI and EI are right here in this meeting. So I have my chief technology officer, who is Rahul Agrawal. Rahul, if you are there, if you can wave out to people out here. So he's Rahul Agrawal, and he's the artificial intelligence expert. And he brings in the technology expertise with Rahul Johari ji from Indraprastha University was talking about. And that's what exactly as 3SR Consultancy we have been trying to balance. He balances the technology and I balance the emotional part of it, connecting the human. So I, as a computer engineer, used to do a lot of programming of computers. Then I figured it out, as Dr. Rahul Johari was saying, started coming into the human programming and the emotional intelligence programming. And that's what exactly is the need of the hour. Today it has become the need of the hour, and that's what the topic is. So to set the context of this topic, which is very relevant and close to us from a career for a faculty, because this is a faculty program. And the faculty as a bridge towards the student is something which we are trying to take. So we'll focus more on the faculty, what are their role as a faculty, how they can develop their career itself, because end of the day, they also need to grow their career. How do they develop themselves as emotionally and intellectually? That's what the first thought of this panelist is. The second thought is, I believe, how they can be an emotional connect and a bridge and an anchor and a role model for the student, because that's a large force. And it's spread all across India, and 135 crore people, so many young higher education folks are there. So you are a very important bridge faculty, all of us which are here connected on this meeting as well as a live session. So this session is for you. And I believe at any point of time, you can post your question in the chat box as well as the live session, and I'm tracking it and I'll put it in front of the panelists. So the format of the session of panel discussion is, I will go around the table with all the panelists, including myself in the last. So I'll go absolutely ladies first. So I'll go with Sunita ma'am as being the first to basically open the floor and share her perspective as a leader, what she has done to emotionally really come out to whatever position she's in the industry. And I believe we heard that from Dr. Rajesh. So that's the first thought I believe we'd like to hear from her, and as well as from the other panelists. And how do you really lead people in a diverse organization considering the current situation? Because she's leading one of the most prestigious organization of security. And as a woman leader, she's trying to manage that as a diverse organization. So what are the elements she had? How does she engage with people? And I believe that would be a good message for faculty to basically take it from their students. And the third aspect, which I would like every panelist to reflect back, is what are your opinions for the faculty and the lives of students from current topic of emotional intelligence. So I'm quite sure Dr. Rajesh Johari was sharing the way of the perspective and his opinions of Indraprastha University, but I would like everybody to from their experience. And I believe have a defense forces also coming out right now. So we'll absolutely love to see how they bond themselves, because they are the ones who bond themselves beyond the life. And today we are all facing that situation as civilians also. Coming out from defense forces as civilians, that will be a great learning for all of us. And then one of the perspective which I would like all the panelists to go around, and that is like working from home or learning from home. दोनों ही काम इस समय बहुत important है, working from home as well as learning from home. And how do these students and faculty need to spend to engage themselves, to strengthen that bond of emotional, which I believe is very, very important in the intellectual world, to really shift towards and keep a balance with the emotional intelligence also. So these are the four things which I would like all the panelists to really focus on. And we will actually start with the round robin, and I'll give you approximately 10 to 15 minutes to go around the table. So Sunita ma'am, I would like to welcome you once again, and I would like you to absolutely get on. Thank you ma'am. Over to you ma'am.
ये सब सवालों के जवाब आपने एक साथ मांगे हैं और 10 मिनट में बताने, ठीक है? I'll give two stories to start with. As you asked, the career choices, and you know, it is all interconnected how we manage in the current times in the scenario. So one was way back in 1980s in Bengal, the whole industry, if some of us remember, because of bunds and lockdowns, and we had CPM and the unions were very strong, the industrial activity totally shut down. That's when one of my family, you know, this is where it started. So they were called to maybe by the government, and the courts gave decisions that, okay, you needn't hire the same people and let's revive the industry in the state. So when he went there, and there were a whole lot of old timers sitting there, and he need not have hired them, nothing. But when he looked at them, there was regret in, you know, what they had done all the time. You see, what happens is lockdowns, bans, when we get, you know, carried away, and then the whole thing shuts down. So he very categorically told them that, see, we can hire new people, but we don't know whether they're going to be good or bad. And you are old horses, so we'll put our bets with you, but with riders. we have to be very strict here. So a group of management and the union leaders formed a committee, and they said, okay, fine, we're going to see to it that anyone who's not a performer, we're going to throw them out. And let me tell you, it worked fantastically well. Within a couple of months, the company was standing on its feet, it was doing well, and it was on the way of acquiring another unit. And it didn't stop here. What happened was a lot of young people, young business community people, when they saw all this was happening, they pitched in, and the whole activity of reviving industry in Bengal happened. And let me tell you, it happened with the cooperation of everyone put together. Now out here, what was the qualities, what you say about the emotional intelligence and all that? What happened is this guy need not have hired. I'm talking, this is somebody from my family. It's very dear to me. So he need not have hired those people, but empathy came into play. But also there were some tough decisions to make. I mean, you can't get away with what you were doing earlier. So what happened is it took off. And with that, it motivated many others. The motivation came in. This is another thing. And then rest is history. You know, everyone is doing fantastically well. Leave aside this COVID times. The second part is when I set up the security organization, I was asked, would you like to do it? And I was very interested. I was a homemaker with 2 small kids. I said, fine. I was more interested in what pocket money I'm going to make. You know, that was my only interest. But my first client was Central Council of Research in Homeopathy. They put their trust and faith in me. I had no letterheads. I had no phones. I had no office, nothing. But I spoke about it. You see, this is when you're self-aware, you know that what you can do and you can convince the other person right in front of you. And from there it took off, and you should have seen the way I managed slowly and gradually. Most of the time I got an invite because who's this woman doing the business? But ultimately when they saw that I was delivering the goods, I don't think I saw my clients for 15 odd years or 20 years. I don't think they saw my faces, but my work spoke for itself. But then again, this was an awareness. And let me tell you, in service industry, all these qualities of emotional intelligence are very, very important. You have to, because you're dealing with manpower. So when you're dealing with manpower, you have to be empathetic. The empathy plays a very important role. You cannot, somebody saying, I have this problem or the other, you have to be looking after them. It is impossible. And I think armed forces in our country are the biggest example, if you see the way how it happens. So empathy, and then there's a lot of motivation. You have to lead from the front. That is all that happens. Now, the second part of it, you said, how do you lead people and engage in the diverse current scenario? In the current scenario, I think it is only empathy and empathy and empathy. Let me tell you, nothing else works. Because if you're not empathizing, then it's very difficult. Now we have some, I know of certain industrial houses, some hotels, and certain of my own places also, where we just told the staff that, see, that these are tough times. We are going to be constrained after some time, financially and other things. So we leave it up to you. And let's see what you come up with. And you won't believe it, on the first of the month, the salary slips came up, and they had already on their own deducted 30% of their salaries, so that it can last longer. This was you know, what you say, the bond that develops of trust and faith in each other. And this can only happen if you're emotional. And it's not only the leader's emotional intelligence, it's also the employees. It's not just you. I mean, nothing can happen singly, but yes, you do lead. And you won't believe it, that for last 3 months, these people are parked. The office staff is staying in the office. They are living there. There is a kitchen running. All the drivers with the vehicles are taking, because they know there is no public transport. They've been dropping people to duties, and they've been picking them up, and lunches or dinners have been reached. So this is all the initiative of the employees. But why does that happen is that belief in leadership and this whole thing, emotional intelligence, comes into play. Without it, it is absolutely not possible. So I feel emotional intelligence has a big role to play in today's time. As we say, IQ is very important. Without that, academically, I mean, you need IQ, but it'll land you a job or something. But to hold on to it, to do it successfully, what is important is emotional intelligence. Now, let me come to your third point. You asked was, what is your opinion on the role of faculty? This is a tough one. All the faculties here. I'm going to be, but you see, everything is available online. Then why do we need teachers? Do we need teachers? Yes, we do. Without them, without a guru, I don't think we reach anywhere. We cannot. We need a guru, no matter how much information, how much. Otherwise, everyone would get degrees and they can study from online on the internet. What is the need for a teacher? But definitely guiding them, holding their hands in time of need, definitely teachers. So what is happening is I think there's a whole lot of pressure now on the faculty, the teachers. Am I visible, audible?
Yes,
Am
ma'am,
I
you are.
audible?
You are
All
audible.
right.
You are audible.
So I feel there's a lot of hand holding and people look up to their teachers. I know for sure, I'm sure all of us, we remember lots of teachers or people who've helped us somewhere along the way with a lot of fondness. So in this kind of crisis or a pandemic, youngsters are bound to be a little confused, or they won't know what to do. So a lot of hand holding is required. And it's also vice versa, because if you see, the bond between the guru and the shishya, the teacher and the student, is tremendous. So sometimes it's not that the student will not be helping out. Sometimes teachers will get very motivated by their students or something. There's a small thing I want to tell you about some very famous guru. And as you've already mentioned, that I was very interested in music, and I went through there were a lot of problems at work and home, and I was in a lot of distress. So I thought, let me learn music, let me go back to music, and let me ask this famous guru. And everyone said, no, she stopped teaching for many years. बहुत सालों से उन्होंने गाना बंद कर दिया है. So I said, never mind, let me talk to her. And when I spoke to her, I kept talking. She says, no, nothing doing. I will not be able to, because she'd undergone a major tragedy of losing her child, a 17-year-old daughter who people say committed suicide or whatever. She stopped singing. So we kept talking for some time, and she says, I'm finding very therapeutic. It's very therapeutic talking to you. So why don't you come home and for a cup of coffee? Getting an invite from such a famous guru, I just got into my car and I went to her. And while we were having tea, she suddenly, in the midst of a conversation, she got hold of my hand and started taking me up the stairs. I said, what happened? And when we went there, I found that it was her music room. And there she sat down and she started singing. And when she started singing, and I had the fortune to know her just for a few months, because after that, it seems she also committed suicide. It was very, but what I felt was, maybe I could do something for her. She went back suddenly to singing. So it's not the mentor only. Sometimes it's the mentee, as we discussed. Like, they can do a lot for their teachers. Sometimes teachers feel so good when the children. I see the other day a kindergarten student went up and held her teacher's. She was reaching just her legs and said, "Oh, Miss Ashita, I love you so much." And just imagine how the teacher feels. So when you're getting a bouquet of flowers or you're getting something. So I think the relationship between a teacher and a student is beautiful. And the onus in the current scenario, definitely, yes, the teachers will need to be making it more innovative, more maybe interesting for students. But then I think, it's important to work together. Now you're coming to your fourth thing, which you said, working from home or learning from home. Does it make any difference for students or faculty? So there is a lot of overlapping, but yes, I think technology is here to stay, and online learning also. There is a shift now. I don't think we'll totally go back to the classrooms or whatever, although that is very important. But I think for quite some time, there has been a lot of thing, okay, we should find better ways to educate children. They should be better, thoda purana ho gaya, let's find some new ways. So maybe this crisis has given us that opportunity to go ahead with it. So again, here the faculty's role is important to make things, to engage the students very well. Times are tough, and so fostering of self-esteem in the youngsters. Teachers can do it very well. If you see, if when we were younger or when we were in a student, we didn't think anything much about what our parents told us. But the moment the teacher said something, that was the law. So despite everything, you may be stern, you may be tough on them or anything, but if they are looking up to you, you will find that they're looking up to you for everything. We have to find ways to address what the students need now. And I think who better than the faculty? Like, I won't be the one to tell them they know their job, but definitely they need to help them reduce their anxiety. I'm sure the students are very anxious. They don't know when the exams are going to happen, what is going to happen. Flexibility is going to, as we say, these are all emotionally intelligent components of that. So they'll all come into play here also with the teachers and students. So I think listening more to students and finding out what is happening to them, what do they need, and then maybe one can design things around their capacities. I'm just a layman. I think it is so that they can move ahead in their respective fields. So, like, this is a pandemic, we all know that, and let's go back to our roots now. The story of Mahabharata, all of us know about the Pandus when they went on exile. And Arjuna asked Yudhishthir, what are we going to do these 13 years, 12 years, 13 years, what are we going to do? So this is something like a pandemic. We have to prepare for what is going to come after the pandemic. So Arjun was told that we will be going to war. So in these 12, 13 years, we are going to hone our skills. We are going to polish ourselves. We're going to prepare for that. So again, in this scenario, maybe the teachers and students can, polish things up, or maybe prepare for the times which are going to come after this. Now, आपने मुझसे आपने एक साथ इतने सवाल बोले.
Probably if it is
how
too
do you?
if it is too much, ma'am, probably what I can do is I'll come into round 2 for you.
No, it's okay. So it's okay. Now, how do you balance the emotional stress prevailing today? Here, I was hearing just now that they said we need to go forward, surge ahead. So somewhere here, I say that we need to go back to our roots. To deal with any kind of emotional stress prevailing, the only way out is that we need to meditate. We need to go within ourselves. That self-awareness is going to be powered only by going within ourselves. It's not going to happen any other way. So we need to go back to our ancient wisdom to learn more about it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks for this
You're
awesome insights.
Come on.
So I believe it has started giving me some reflection on all these things, and I can very well correlate coming out from a mother as well as a woman entrepreneur, and I believe a person who is a music lover, and I believe I'll share, in fact, how this can really, music is so healing. And I believe that you actually brought in 3-4 very, very important elements. And for the benefit of everybody connected here with us, I would like to
Music
emphasize
is a
that
great
point. And
help.
absolutely, music is the biggest healer, in fact. And I was talking to a faculty. I was conducting a faculty development program yesterday for more than 130 folks, like what we are doing it today. And there was one gentleman and a faculty came forward, and he asked a beautiful question, and it's very relevant for the faculty here. He said, "Sir, मुझे हारमोनियम बजाना आता है." And आपकी कहानी से मुझे वो याद आ गया, आपके गुरु से सुनीता मैम, मुझे हारमोनियम बजाना आता है. And I am teaching IoT. And Rahul sir, Johari sir were talking about how artificial intelligence is there, and we are doing many certification courses on IoT and AI. So मैं IoT पढ़ाता हूँ और मुझे हारमोनियम बजाना आता है. मैं कैसे बैलेंस करूं इन दोनों को? एक IQ है और एक EQ है. How do I do that? But there was a misnomer there. EQ is just not only the artistic part. And the design thinking pattern, my dear friends, needs both the part of your brain, the right side and the left side. So we'll
IQ
go more
and
on.
EQ is tremendous results. Yes.
Absolutely. You have to balance in all of them. You have to balance all of them. मैंने लास्ट में उनको समरी में मैंने यही कहा, आप IoT को हारमोनियम बजा करके सिखा दिया करो स्टूडेंट को. इसने मना किया है. So I believe he said, I'm doing my PhD right now in the academic world, and I'll follow these what exactly you're doing. So he actually took it, in fact, as a personal advice for himself and for his students. And that's the whole idea of today's session. So I believe that story coined up from your beautiful story, ma'am. And another thing I believe very interestingly, I liked it, is how you connected with the employees where they themselves came forward. वो अपने आप आए, अपने आप आके उन्होंने कहा कि आप 30% सैलरी काट लीजिए मैम. In fact, and I can very well vouch for it, that can happen when the students come back to faculty.
चल रही है, 3 महीने से किचन चला रहे हैं, and it's only the staff and the drivers, and I'm telling you, it's awesome. It's lovely to see them.
I know. And as you rightly said, the only thing, जैसे कहते हैं ना, you rightly put it as empathy, and empathy. And that's what Rahul Johari also said, that empathy is something which is going to be very, very important right now. And I'll give one statement because that has come out for the next panelist to pick up from there. It is important to understand before being understood. I'm going to repeat that. It is important to understand before being understood. बहुत जरूरी है कि पहले आप दूसरे को समझें बजाय दूसरा आपको समझे. And generally it happens the reverse. हम चाहते हैं कि दूसरा हमको पहले समझ ले. Even customer wants कि पहले मुझे buy करना है, वो मुझे समझ ले. And we want the vendor to understand his or her product. But my dear friend, it doesn't work. First, we have to understand somebody before somebody understands us. And that's a golden book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Stephen Covey. Anybody can go ahead and refer that. So with that very, very interesting note, and the last point which I picked up from you, अगर हम बाहर नहीं जा पा रहे हैं इस पैंडेमिक में पिछले 5 महीने में, if we cannot go outside, let's go inside. If we cannot go outside, let's go inside. And that's the best way to do is meditation.
All within us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Travel inside, hone your skills, develop yourself. जब वो महाभारत की तरह से जब 14 साल का वनवास या जो भी पीरियड हमारा खत्म होगा कोरोना का, I believe we'll come out with a new charge, with a new energy, better prepared to basically fight the new kind of a Mahabharata in the Kali Yuga which we are living in. So I believe that's a beauty of how do you prepare yourself as a faculty, as well as prepare the students. Prepare the students for tomorrow, and that's what exactly is a wonderful 3 points I picked up from you, ma'am. So I believe with this wonderful 3 notes, ma'am, thanks for that. I'll come back to you, ma'am. So on the round 2 for you. So I'll bring out my next panelist, I believe, Pradeep ji. I believe, I know that's a force, armed forces, which represents a very big community of our defense forces. And one of the toughest one, we have the highest post in Leh and Ladakh, which is, I believe, Siachen Glacier, in fact, and which is unique in the world. So, Pradeep ji, I'll welcome you as a panelist, and I believe would like you to address all these aspects of these questions which we have talked about. In fact, and over to you, sir, in fact, if you can hear me out. Pradeep ji, can you? Let me see if
I think Pradeep sir is muted, so we request you, sir, to unmute yourself. Yeah,
you have to unmute yourself, sir. and switch on your camera and please go unmute, sir. In the meantime, friends, if anybody has any questions which is erupting in your mind, please share it in the chat box. I'll pick up that and put it in front of the panelists, and I'll be the person who will be very curious to listen to your questions. I have gone through all your questions, which I'm sure we, if not all, at least we are able to answer most of your questions and the curiosity which you have. So please keep shooting your questions in the chat box live. So Pradeep ji, I believe if you are there, I believe unmute.
So we request Pradeep sir to please unmute.
And with your camera, we are looking forward for you. Pradeep Bhatia sir, you are not unmuted. You are still muted.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
we
sir,
can hear
yes,
you, sir.
Now we can hear you, sir. Yes, sir, please.
Okay, wonderful. Right. First of all, a very good morning to all the attendees, the panelists, and the organizers. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Rajesh Tiwari for taking me on board this very interesting session. Now, coming to the questions, the first question about career choices. You see, when you join the training establishments, either in NDA or in IMA, NDA, National Defense Academy in Khadagwasla, Pune, or IMA, Indian Military Academy in Dehradun, the very first thing that they grill into you, they tell you and keep grilling into you, this thing for your entire training session is that the country comes first. It reigns supreme. There's nothing which can be more important than the country. This is the first thing which they tell us, and they tell us not to do anything which will compromise the security of the country. That's the first thing. The second thing that they tell us is the safety and welfare of the troops that you command. That is, it comes at number 2. You cannot ignore their safety and welfare because they are the main task force. This is that HR factor that they tell us about. And the third is your personal comfort, welfare, interest. It comes in the end. It is least important. That is the first thing which a cadet is told in IMA and NDA when he joins. Now, when you get selected, when you're going through the selection procedure, the SSB interview, there are 15 OLQs that they check you for. If you do not have them, or if you have them in limited amounts, then there's no way you will get selected. And which are those 15 OLQs? Firstly, do you have a sense of responsibility? Because the job requires of you to be responsible. If you're not responsible, you will make serious errors of judgment, and it will jeopardize the security of the troops and your own security also, and thereby the security of the nation. So that's the first OLQ that they check you for. Second is your teamwork. Do you fit in a team or not? You may personally be very good, but if you do not fit in a team, you will not be able to perform the operations successfully. The decision making. So this way, there are about 15 OLQs which they check you for: your dependability, your initiative, are you willing to take risks, do you have determination, are you flexible, do you have confidence. So all these OLQs are checked in you. If you have them, you are screened and selected, and you go for training. And these OLQs continue with you till the time you are in the training period, and once you leave training and become commissioned officers. So that's the first part, answer to the first part of your question. Now the second question was about diversity. How do you lead people and engage them in a diverse organization? An army is a very, very diverse organization. In a unit, officers are heterogeneous from all parts of the country. And barring a few units, almost I would say 80 to 90% of the units are composed of people from all parts of the country. Now, how do you manage this diversity? The first thing is, like somebody mentioned, empathy. You got to be empathetic to everybody. They're all your troops. That is how you have to take them. You have to have the power of listening. If somebody has a complaint, you need to address it promptly. You've got to empower and educate your team. You've got to lead by example. This is a very, very important thing. If you cannot lead by example, you will not be considered to be a leader. You've got to communicate. You've got to create a conducive work environment. You've got to handle conflicts very fairly and very impartially. And you must, punish bad behavior in a very fair manner. You cannot punish one person and leave the other person go unpunished. So that's something which is drilled into us. So this in brief is the first part of your question. Now, the fourth question. I'll leave the third question for other panelists. I'll come to the fourth and fifth question. The fifth question, how do you balance emotional stress prevailing today? Well, there are several things you can do. First is be physically active, remain physically fit, go for a walk. If you're not allowed to leave your premises, you can go on the terrace. You can walk in the society, the pathway astride the society, within the society. Whatever physical activity you can indulge in, you must do that to remain active. Number two is sleep. Sleep is extremely important. You must have 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day. Anything less than that will affect your efficiency. Third is time management. You've got a lot of free time at hand these days. Remember the Pareto principle, that 80-20 rule. I'll not dwell on that, but basically you got to manage your time well. Maintain a healthy diet. That is very important for your emotional, balance. Okay, then take responsibility for your actions. Any action that you take, you are responsible for the outcome. You've got to prioritize your important matters. This is something very important which you need to do. You must stay positive at all times. I can understand we are going through a crisis, a very bad time, but this time is only for a limited period. Eventually, this crisis will get over this crisis. Things will become normal. So you got to stay positive. Meditation and yoga is another thing which people can do, and it helps a lot. Fourth question was about working from home or learning from home. Will it make any difference? Yes, it will. It does make a lot of difference. What actions can you take? You must organize your work area. If you're working from home, create a very conducive environment. There should be no distractions like roommates or TV or any, inadequate lighting. These things create a very good work environment. You got to be organized. Have your laptop, stationery, pen, phone, charger, everything in place. There should be no noisy environment or no children close by. You must master technology. This is the right time for those who are not very tech savvy. This is the right time to learn and get used to the latest technology. You must plan your workflow. Have a list of tasks ready. Prioritize your work, schedule time slots, and work and cater for your work schedule. Finish one task before you jump to another task. Get dressed. Don't be in your casuals when you are working from home. Dress as if you are actually at your workplace. So if you do all these things, if you do not allow distractions, interruptions to hamper your work, I think you would be on the right track. So this was my take. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pradeep ji, bringing very, very insightful perspective. And I picked up again 3 points from your narrative very well. And I'm just going to emphasize those 3 points because many of the faculty members are asking for those things. And the first point which you talked about, how do you really work? Defense forces is a classical example of a diverse teamwork. And if I compare or draw a chronology between the armed forces and our academic world, our faculty, our students are again very diverse. They're coming from different walks of life, different families, and they could be all kind of diverse professionals, business professional, defense forces, farmers, किसान के बच्चे, हर तरह का है वहां पर और अलग-अलग प्रांत से आते हैं, अलग-अलग स्टेट से आते हैं हमारे इंडिया के. So if I compare the academic world and the defense forces, I believe the diversity of both these worlds are more or less same. तो अगर गुरु को किसी को अपने आप को एसोसिएट करना है स्टूडेंट के साथ, आपको एक टीम की तरह से काम करना पड़ेगा. And that's what beautifully you gave example, Pradeep ji, in fact, for how armed forces have been working as a team. एक टीम की तरह से, एक लक्ष्य की तरफ से, and then you can एक मिशन की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं. When you do that, their bonding and association between the guru and the student or the mentor and mentee is going to be very, very important. And actually, that's a wonderful way to basically actually try to create an emotional bond between the guru and the mentee. Coming to, I believe, another point which you highlighted, Pradeep, very well, is how do you, in today's situation, keep yourself physically fit? And there are so many things which are coming up because you can't go every time outside. How do you keep yourself physically fit? And you gave a lot of good items and how to manage your time. And that's another very good thing which you try to do. And this is a good time to learn. I believe Sunita ji talked about how one can go from outside to inside. And you talked about how one can invest in your own learning. कई बार हमने कई चीजें शायद पहले हमें अपने स्टूडेंट पढ़ते समय नहीं टाइम मिला था. I can give you one example. 75 years of one of my uncles, 75 साल के अंकल हैं, उन्होंने उस उम्र में आकर के फेसबुक एंड सोशल मीडिया एंड ईमेल एंड व्हाट्सएप सीखा है. एंड ही सेड मैंने ये सब चीजें सीखी थी टेक्नोलॉजी एस्पेक्ट. Another aspect, he wanted to love painting and he really enrolled and he was the senior most youngest from his heart learning painting from a 30-year guru. 75 साल का स्टूडेंट learning from a 30-year guru about how to do painting. And I believe Sunita ji gave a beautiful example of how she was learning, I believe, music and different things from her own daughter also, a guru in fact, I believe. And she was, that's an amazing way. So the age is not a barrier. And I believe reverse mentoring, which again came out from both the panelists, reverse mentoring means, Sunita ji gave a very good example of how mentee can be a good mentor for the mentor itself. How a mentee can be a mentor or mentor itself. And कभी-कभी शिष्य भी गुरु के लिए बहुत बड़ा काम कर जाता है. बहुत सारे उदाहरण हैं इसके जीवन में. अगर आप जाएंगे तो हमारे ग्रंथों में भी बहुत सारे मिल जाएंगे. All of you can say the religious books also talks about it. So wonderful points, 3 points, Pradeep ji, coming out from you. And I believe they are trying to basically build a sequence in that. So I'll come back to you, Pradeep ji, again as a panelist. Let me move on to my third panelist. I know Dr. Rahul ji, I believe you started with the overall address and set the context of how Indraprastha University is actually trying to do that. So I'm coming to you, Dr. Rahul Johari ji, because Indraprastha University में बहुत सारा काम किया है, लेकिन you are yourself an HOD and a faculty. तो आप as a faculty क्या सोचते हैं और क्या faculty को करना चाहिए इस pandemic में और this situation में? What is views and how did handling, because you are yourself an artist in debating the and Dr. Rajesh. I am just checking, in fact.
Thank you so much for again giving me a chance to interact with the faculty members. I think this faculty development program will go a long way in imbibing the skills of emotional intelligence in the mind and the hearts of so many faculty members who have joined in this FDP program. I'll share my own personal thoughts in this regard to what Sunita ma'am said and Dr. Pradeep also said. If you look at the life of a student, right from his birth, he may be wired. Now, in what ways he's wired? Is he wired for a good IQ? Is he wired for good EQ? Or he's just a dump? Now, it depends upon the kind of genes he has got from his parents as well. Now, if a family, like I work in IT, so I'm totally IT. I can share the examples of IT only for that matter. I've got many friends in my own group as such. Both husband and wife are the techies, working in the top-notch MNCs, don't have a time, definitely for their personal life. Now, if a child is born, what he normally looks to his parents, that right day and night, they're only glued to their laptops, to their mobiles, and continuously they're working day and night. So he thinks this is what the life is, working, because we don't blame parents also, because most of the companies have got the strict deadlines. They have to meet the targets of the set by their team leaders. So it's very difficult to have a good sleep also at night as such. So both husband and wife, they are working around the clock, earning good money, but then they don't have a time for the kid. Now this kid also looks at both parents. They are working around. So he passes first year of his birth, second year, third year. So he keeps on looking like this. And then he thinks, okay, this is what the life is all about, having laptop, having the mobile phone, having the remotes. And this is what my life is all around as such. Now, if this kid has an artistic background, or he wants to be a cricketer, or he wants to be any other profession rather than the IT profession. Now, there will always be conflict between the parents and such a kid who wants to pursue his career in a different profession altogether. Because majority of time, what we see normally, all the kids, majority, I don't say always, they take a career path in the same profession as what their parents do. Son of a businessman, 90% of the time he will end up landing in business only. Same way what we have seen the example of Sushant Singh Rajput versus the Bollywood nepotism. All the sons and kids of the celebrities, their majority of the time land up in the same profession, what their parents are doing, landing again into the Bollywood as well. So my experience is 80 to 90% of the kids normally make a same profession what their parents are doing. But those kids who are not able to make the same profession, there's always a conflict between the parents and a kid. And yes, there will always be students who will not like to make the same profession what their parents. For example, a son of an IIT professor, it's not necessarily he will crack JEE mains and advanced and land into IIT. Same way a doctor from the AIMS, he may be a gold medalist in his own time. It may not happen that a son of a doctor in AIMS land in the same profession as what his father is, the doctor as such. So those kids are bound to have a great turmoil in their growing up period. Conflict with the parents, because our IIT engineer will not be able to understand the artistic skill of his child, because he would like, just what Sunita ma'am says, playing a good music or playing a good harmonium or playing a good cassette, because that requires he is spending huge amount of time. And what will the father say? Solve the problems of maths, solve the problem of physics as such. So this is such a child will definitely going to suffer a great emotional turbulence in his growing up period as such. And this creates problems in his growing up. Now, when such a children lands into the engineering colleges, what we normally see, in fact, I was taking one of the Viva and the Java programming language, and he was not able to answer anything. So I said, okay, your percentage looks good in 10th, your percentage looks good in 12th. Now what happened? Sir, मैं तो ये engineering degree parents की वजह से कर रहा हूँ बस. Now, when a child makes such a candid admission that he's pursuing a career just because of his parents' sake, now what all we can expect from him? And these kids are emotionally disturbed. They have undergo huge turmoil in themselves as such. In fact, just 6 months back, I received a call from a mother who was working in the University of Roorkee. So she called me up. I said, yes, ma'am. May I help you for that? What this call is about? She said, I'm the mother of one of your student, and he is not able to cope up the rigors of the computer science and engineering. He's not able to learn algorithms. He's not able to understand the concepts as such. So I listened her patiently for that matter, and she said, can you give him a tuition? मैंने कहा, no ma'am, I'm a university professor. I don't go into these kind of things, but yes, ask your son to get me touch tomorrow so that I can listen to him what all problems he's facing in his day-to-day life. Because his mother was in Roorkee, he was living as a life as a hostler, and in hostel we see normally the kids, they sleep during the daytime and work in the night time as well. And so in classes also we find them at times we have to wake up in the lab, okay, focus, concentrate, because there are so many group of students in the hostel, they're celebrating parties and everything as such. So emotions are something which are not pondered upon in majority of our professional life. I'm talking of completely of IT and CSE, information technology and computer science and engineering as such. And we as a university teachers are not groomed to handle it. Now this is the point, I candid admission which we should make. If you look at the school education, school teachers are trained, because EQ is something which may not come naturally to an individual. Sometimes it need to be imbibed, sometimes it need to be groomed, sometimes it need to be nurtured, because then only person can start empathizing that what the other person is actually experiencing. So a group of emotions, thoughts, feelings, expression, first of all, I should understand my own self. Then only I can understand and the other problems as well. So empathy comes later. First of all, self-realization has to be there as well. And that creates a problem. Now, school teachers are by and large groomed, trained to spot out the emotional issues in the students if they are behaving irrationally. in the class, or he is not doing regular homework, or he is not focusing on studies as such. But in university education, things open up a larger extent. We go and take lectures, a huge class size, something 70 to 75, sometimes even touching 80s for that matter. And then even in the labs, we are rigor the programming and coding part as such. So we are not able to focus more on the emotional issues of the student, which we should do, no doubt about that. But we are more focused in about his IQ skills, because we are more concerned about his placement in the final year of engineering. We want every student to get placed in good colleges and with good pay packages. Rather, I will share another experience. I was there in the counseling around 3 years back. Many parents, rather every year it happens, many parents came, they just think about the placement. How will my child get placed? What is the package they are going to do? Now, whether child actually wants to do engineering or not, first of all, parents should talk to the kids as such. This clearing JEE means because of parental pressure or the school pressure does not mean he is prepared for engineering. Whether he wants to make, after 4 years of his life, he actually wants to become engineer. And that's why some of the engineers do drop out. Even after pursuing his 4 year of engineering degree, after completing their engineering, they forays into other professions, be it music or sports. We have seen Bollywood also. Many number of engineers are there in the Bollywood, or into the cricket. Anil Kumble was an engineer, but he was a cricketer. So most of them forays into the other profession because they think they are not wired for engineering degree. Because just 4 years of engineering is not good enough. Engineering degree makes you engineer for life. It haunts your creativity skills. It brings innovation. It brings novelty. It brings a good idea that we should be able to think new. Now, thinking new, it cannot come easy. It requires a lot of passion, lot of rigor, lot of creativity as such. But if you look at the life of the people who have actually excelled, like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, they are getting high IQ skills. So it will be very difficult for a person with extremely high IQ skills to possess good EQ skills. But there, yes, having said that, in some of the professions like medical, doctors, they need to have a good EQ skills. At the same time, they need to have a good IQ skills also, because only if they've got IQ skills, they'll be able to crack the medical entrance exam. Now, when they're dealing with the patients, they need to have a good EQ skills, because then only they'll be able to understand what the patient is actually going through. Same way, if you look into the hospitality sectors, we have got a hotel industry. We are directly dealing with the customers. A person is required to have more EQ skills rather than the IQ skills. But coming to the IT and CSC sectors, yes, we require a person who is very sharp, because targets are there, companies' demand are there. You cannot afford to waste time. You need to be very focused, target oriented, and should be able to meet the demands. So that is a submission from my side, Dr. Rajesh and Dr. Shailesh. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, Dr. Rahul Johari. I believe a wonderful points, I believe, narrated by you. And again, as I keep saying, I have picked up 3 to 4 points, Dr. Rahul Johari, from you. And they are all actually very, very good. And I'm probably putting it in front of, again, the panelists for building on those points, which is what I'm trying to summarize. The first point, I believe, beautifully, Dr. Rahul, I believe you have brought in is conflict between the parent and the child. मैंने ये किया है तो तुम भी ये कर लो, मेरा ये प्रोफेशन है तो तुम भी ये कर लो, मैंने ये डिग्री पढ़ी है तुम भी ये कर लो. And that is the biggest conflict that children face right in the family. Is it also happening in the college? Is it happening between the faculty and the student or the mentee? That is what something we need to reflect on. That is what we have to think. It is sometimes Guru Gobind do khade kako lago paung baliari Guru aapne Gobind diyo bataye. तो कभी कभी गुरु का स्थान शिष्य बहुत आगे रख लेता है, पेरेंट के बराबर या पेरेंट से भी कभी कभी गोविंद के बराबर रख देता है, भगवान के बराबर रख देता है. So are you actually trying to display and demonstrate that? So that's a beautiful conflict which you brought in, Dr. Rahul. Second thing, I believe I really liked it, what you talked about is school faculty versus the college faculty. School faculty is kind of trained on emotionally and trying to sense the emotions of the students. And I believe as college faculty, as a higher education, we are more trained towards the IQ part of it rather than the EQ part of it. So EQ also has to be trained to the higher education. And that's why this faculty development program, and I believe it's a wonderful session. And that's why we also are running, personally, I'm running a lot of such sessions for the faculty and students, both of them on the EQ aspect itself. So coming to the third point, which Rahulji actually mentioned, was if we make our hobbies as our profession. अगर हम अपने हॉबी को भी प्रोफेशन बना लेंगे तो एक भी दिन हमें स्ट्रेस नहीं होगा. Not even a single day we'll be working. and that you will be doing the best because you are trying to do something which is your strength. And 3 Idiots के अंदर जो आपने example दिया, वो जो 3 Idiots की कहानी याद आती है, जिसमें he says अपने to your father, पापा मेरे पास बड़ा बंगला नहीं होगा, छोटा घर होगा मेरे पास, बड़ी गाड़ी नहीं होगी, छोटी गाड़ी होगी, मेरे पास शायद उतना बड़ा बैंक बैलेंस नहीं होगा, छोटा बैंक बैलेंस होगा, लेकिन मैं खुश तो रहूंगा. And let me do something which is a natural and a wildlife photography rather than becoming an engineer. And that's what I believe comes out beautifully from Dr. Rahul, I believe, from some of your points. And I believe also brought in a shade of different industries. अलग-अलग इंडस्ट्री में अलग-अलग कॉम्पिटेंस चाहिए होती है स्टूडेंट्स की. तो किसमें कौन सी स्ट्रेंथ ज्यादा है, कौन आईक्यू में ज्यादा है, कौन ईक्यू में कम है, कौन ईक्यू में ज्यादा है, कौन आईक्यू में कम है. हाउ डू दे रियली चूज द इंडस्ट्री वाइजली? उसके लिए गुरुज का रोल, फैकल्टी का रोल बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Are you coaching them? Are you guiding them? Are you facilitating them? Are you mentoring them? And that's something very, very important. I can probably go on and on with a very, very interesting story. एक छोटा 14 साल का बच्चा क्रिकेट स्टेडियम में आता था. He used to come every day 5 o'clock क्रिकेट स्टेडियम में आता था और वो 15 दिन तक रोज बॉलिंग करता था. वहां आकर के प्रैक्टिस करता था बॉलिंग की 5 से 7 तक every day for 15 days. He was bowling. 14 years का child. 15 दिन तक करता रहा बॉलिंग बहुत, because he wanted to become a great bowler. And 15 दिन, there was one gentleman for him, he was observing on the stadium, cricket field पे वो उसको observe कर रहा था कि 15 दिन तो ये हो जाता है, रोज बॉलिंग की प्रैक्टिस करता है, and he's trying to become a great bowler. But my dear friends, after 15 days, he called this boy. ये जो gentleman देख रहे थे, उनको बुलाया था. And this friend, I believe, this gentleman, I believe he was there, he actually called him and said, my dear friend, I want to give you input on a suggestion, and I probably want to, ठीक है सर बताइए क्या बात है? He said, your strength, my dear friend, is in batting. It's not bowling. Your strength is in batting, not bowling. So that is the time this 14-year kid could have just taken 2 choices. Either he could have rejected it or he could have accepted it. And if he would have rejected it, we would have not got somebody whom we got today as one of the very, very known persons. If anybody wants to share the name of the person in the chat box, I would really love to hear that. It's a good quiz for you. Agar kaun tha wo, who was the person who actually guessed it? I believe that and who was this person who was trying to be giving the feedback? And just to demystify that, I'll give you the name of the person. This 14-year kid was Dolkar, who wanted to become, yes, Dr. Shamshed, absolutely right. He wanted to become the biggest bowler, but this mentor or this guru or the coach who was watching him, he was the coach which was all throughout his life. And in his retiring pitch, Sachin actually gave credits to him. He would have said, because of my guru, I am what am I. Otherwise, मैं तो बॉलिंग करता रहता और आपको एक भारत का बहुत बढ़िया बैट्समैन नहीं मिलता. So the role of a mentor and a coach and a guru is so much that you have to give a feedback to develop that strength of his or her, because you have to recognize that, and that recognition has to come from the guru itself. So with this small story of anecdote, I believe, which came out from our 3 panelists articulating it, I would like to move on to our 4th panelist, Dr. Rajesh. So Dr. Rajesh, I know you and me share a lot of common students from United College of Engineering. I'm quite sure you have a very, very interesting perspective to share what faculty can do. So Dr. Rajesh, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shailesh. So I would be centering my experience sharing based upon the faculties, because we have this FDP with all the faculties joining us. So coming to the first question, that what faculties can do, apart from the others, I will handle in a short PPT that will be showed after later. So faculty's role in this current scenario of COVID-19, along with the growing impact and influence of technology in our life, where information is easily available, would be that of a facilitator, mentor, and identifying the inner abilities of the students. Because it happens that I will share the one of the real life story of a student who came to a counseling session where I was the attending that session, and I just asked that student that what is your previous background. That student was basically trying to know about the MBA program, management program, what are the benefits, what are the prerequisites, and future career opportunities. So I just, as a normal course of interaction, we asked the previous background of the student in graduation, what we have done. So I was really astonished. Normally, people come with BSc, BTech, BCom, like these kind of degrees for doing the MBA. And that was the first person I met in my entire life that he told me that, sir, I am an MBBS doctor and I am having my own nursing home. I'm running it. So I was really shocked to know an MBBS person, a doctor, running a successful nursing home is coming to get the counseling and the inquiry for a MBA. So the first question I asked him that, sir, you are already into a really respectable position and people do MBA for job and the career prospects. So what is the motivation? Why you want to do MBA now? You're already well settled in your life. So he told me that, sir, I am not a doctor by choice. My parents, both of them are doctors. We had got by enough financial resources, so I was made to study in a private medical college with hefty amount of fees and all that. So they wanted me to be a doctor, and they wanted me to run this nursing home. But I am not getting any emotional satisfaction by doing this kind of in this profession. I want to do something else. So I told him that you can. That was a shocking story of somebody who has spent so many years of his time, energy, and effort doing something which is not the emotionally the right career option. So I recommended that MBA. There is a nowadays healthcare management available, which can use his existing knowledge base to for the benefit of society. So that was one example. Another example I would like to quote is of a chartered accountant. Uh, um, he was having a session of the certain kind of a training program in the industry where all the chartered accountants were attending that session, and they used to have different kind of it was a 1 week long program. In the evening they used to have the different sessions, discussions and all that, and next day there used to be a self reflection on the different topics that they have attended. So one of the guys was very in the late evening used to explain the different kind of taxation aspects to the other participants in a very simple manner, simple language, and identifying the problems of the others. So he was having basically a higher level of empathy. So one of the chartered accountants in that group recommended, sir, you have very high level of empathy. Why don't you join teaching profession? So though you are a chartered accountant, it's a totally different world altogether. But your empathy level, how you are able to narrate and explain the complex laws and procedures in a simple manner will be helpful for the students of the accounting and chartered accountancy, and maybe let's say MBA or other kind of specializations in finance. So he was shocked to see that somebody at this level of age is telling me something which has really strike a chord. That really do I love to empathize with people, and later on that self-reflection transformed that chartered accountant to a good teacher also. So that was the real life experience I wanted to share regarding the career choices. Now coming to the next point of your how do we lead? How do we use emotional intelligence to lead in this era, or maybe pre-COVID or post-COVID? So I would just like to share the experience of my own mentor and first superior when I joined teaching profession from industry. So my HOD was a traditional academician, PhD with lots of publication, research background, and I was a person from totally different, zero research background, but with lots of industry experience. So my in our institute there used to be a scheme of work or lecture plan, as we used to call it. Let's say 45 lectures, and every lecture was having a session 1 to 45, and even if a faculty missed or changed the plan of the action, there has to be an question answer session, why you change the action, the sequence of the lectures. So when I joined, I was given with the lecture plan and the previous faculty has done it. So I was really very uncomfortable with that lecture plan, because my objective was to give the knowledge to the students in the best possible manner, and I was not feeling comfortable with the kind of a scheme which was given to me, and it was very rigid. It was told to me that you have to follow it, that's it, no questions asked. So and by the way, my HOD used to interact with faculties. Normally new faculties join, the seniors interact with faculties to understand, and the students to see the comfort level, the quality of teaching and all that. So he was able to understand and empathize and judge that yes, this faculty, new faculty, is having some problem with the scheme of plan or lecture plan, but his teaching is good, the students are liking, and the feedback is good. So let us do something with this scheme of work. So he told me himself that, sir, if in case you find it problematic, you can just keep it aside and deliver in whatever manner you want, whatever plan of action you want in the scheme of lectures. So I just changed that lecture plan, and that gave me a lot of motivation. You see, leadership in the entire university and the college I was working, nobody has done it. That was the first person to change the scheme of work lecture plan for a new faculty who is coming from industry. So that gave me inner strength and motivation that yes, this faculty has, this my boss HOD has identified my problem without me telling the problem. By he is able to empathize, understand, and provide a solution. So that was the experience I wanted to share. And the third point I would like to bring it here is the role of faculty in the current scenario, as you have rightly pointed out and also mentioned by our esteemed panelists. The information is available everywhere. Why do we need a faculty? The university can give a link of all the video lectures. Student will go through it and then appear for the online examination, and they will get a degree on online their email or something like that, or their web portal. But we need to understand that yes, as a human being, we are a social animal. We need a hand holding. We need somebody as a facilitator, as a mentor, and this is where the role of EI becomes important in the current era, where everybody, we are surrounded with technology, artificial intelligence, and a lot of gadgets. So but nobody is there to handhold and tell us what is the inner strength, because we are competing in a world of, or let's say, a battle of benchmarks. If my previous batch had got a average placement of 8 lakhs, I should at least get 8 lakhs package. That is a battle of benchmarks, and we don't understand what is our inner strength and inner qualities which can be useful for this company, maybe society, or this entire world. These are the few points I wanted to share, and if you give me opportunity later on, I will share a brief slide.
Wonderful, Dr. Rajesh. I believe great insights again. As I keep saying, in fact, I add always 3 points. So I believe the wonderful 3 points coming up, how one can shift their careers. And I believe you beautifully gave the example of a doctor becoming a management person. In fact, I can give you, there's a co-working space in Connaught Place, a very, very popular co-working space, and one of the first pioneered co-working spaces named Innovate. I believe I was trying to figure out many startups, because we try to inculcate and accelerate a lot of startups which are there in academic institutions. उनको मदद करते रहते हैं हम. तो startups का 2 places where they can nurture is, one is the colleges. The college actually is a wonderful place to nurture those startups and groom them, in fact. But another thing is these co-working spaces. So this owner of this co-working space of Innovate, interestingly, is a doctor. And I heard him on an interview, in fact, and when he was introducing himself, he said, professionally, I was from a family background, is absolutely, as you rightly said, from a medical background, and then I do a management degree to become a business professor. Completely different. So I believe from a human body, he became a businessman from a mind. So complete shift of careers, wonderful points, and I believe this can happen. And the role of faculty, as you rightly said, can really make a lot of difference. And that's what I was talking about, the example of Sachin Tendulkar and his coach. Another point which you talked about, there was a kind of empathy by the HOD or the of your own example, I believe, how you could graduate from that example and the research scholarship which is required, and actually having that problem. So that's a beautiful example of empathy which you gave, and the faculty role in that actually was a very good thing. Third thing which I liked it very well, and you coined it very well, in fact, Dr. Rajesh, was on Battle of benchmarks. Oh, wow. Wonderful way of putting it. Battle of benchmarks. I really love that, the way you put it across. And IQ is all about measuring and benchmarking every day. Today, every day, you will go back to any news channel or newspaper, you'll get a benchmark. How many corona patients have got detected today? How many have actually been cured? How many are recovered? The very interesting part is that, yes, there's a benchmark. Every day it is going. Some countries are going up, some countries are going down. There's a statistical trend, and there's a benchmark across countries and states. And I believe today UP has been locked down for Saturday and Sundays. That's how I believe every state is trying to have a benchmark for this overall pandemic. So it's a battle of benchmarks. Wonderful example. And in this battle of benchmark, what is the role of faculty from an emotional intelligence perspective? What a wonderful point you are bringing in, Dr. Rajesh, how we need to really create a bridge from emotional intelligence while this benchmark is happening. One small tip for everybody. One small tip for everybody. And I'm picking up something from Sunita ma'am, what she said earlier. You have to go early. जब आप सुबह उठते हो, जब आप सबसे पहले उठ करके जो आपको चाय के साथ अखबार चाहिए होता है, don't do that. Don't do that. The first 5 pages of your newspaper or your TV channels are not for the early morning or the late night. You have to be with you. So I am going to challenge some of the thoughts of the panelists also. Social intelligence is not social media. Social intelligence is not social media. Facebook पे आपके पास हजारों दोस्त होंगे. And if you talk about the suicide case which happened in Mumbai, he was one of the big fans. So social media is how many people you know about others. आपके लाइक से आपको पता नहीं चलता कि आपके दोस्त कितने हैं. Social media is not a benchmark to measure your social connect in the emotional intelligence. That's the 5th parameter which we talked about. In the modern, students are completely lost in that. They have so many friends in that, which have many likes. I have 10,000 connects. I have 1,000 friends. I have 2,000 these friends. They could be fake friends. They could be absolutely fake friends. These have no socially binding with you and no emotionally connect with you. Just a like is not a social media connect. And that's not empathy. That's not at all empathy. So I'm going to challenge some of the panelists because now it's my turn. So I am going to take the role of a panelist and I'm going to challenge some of those turn. In fact, so as a panelist, I'm going to challenge some of the thought process which are going to be there. So let me start. I believe the research which we have been doing, I believe personally I've been doing research for at least last 2 decades. पिछले 20 साल से I've been working in a global industry. In a global industry, I've been actually trying to work cross-cultural all across the world. And let me try to give you a definition of emotional intelligence. And I'm going to give you a definition. Emotional intelligence is the ability to accurately perceive your own and others' emotion. अपने और दूसरों के emotions को समझना बहुत important है. Ability, and I'm talking about the ability. So do you have the ability? My dear friends, many of us, as rightly said by some of our panelists, do not know ourselves. हमें अपनी strength ही नहीं पता होती है. ऐसे कहते हैं ना 3 उंगलियां, तो दूसरे की तरफ तो 1 उंगली है, but 3 उंगलियां हमारी तरफ हैं. Many times we are wrongly assessing ourselves, and as well, very well said by many of our panelists, हम कई बार अपने self assessment में चले जाते हैं, जो कि first parameter है self assessment, emotional intelligence का. The second part of this definition of emotional intelligence, leading by feeling, is to understand the signals that emotion sends about relationship. वो क्या signals हैं जो कि emotional intelligent person को होने चाहिए? My dear friends, the depressed person or the most frustrated person will be the most smiling person. जो सबसे हंस रहा है, he could be the most depressed person. And that is not a true signal of sensing the emotional intelligence. So are you getting the right triggers? Are you sensing the right triggers of the people who are not at all trying to be the emotionally intelligent person? Are you sensing with the student? कोई student आपका किस sense में है, क्या देख रहा है, क्या उसकी body language है, क्या उसका voice modulation है, क्या कह रहा है, क्या नहीं कह रहा है, क्या वो चुप बैठा हुआ है. You have to really sense those signals about yourself and about your students, in fact, as a faculty, because many of you have asked this question in the chat box on the live channel. So I'm just trying to answer some of those questions to you. The third aspect of emotional intelligence is and to manage your own and other emotions. अपने emotions को और दूसरे emotions को manage करना. And that is, my dear friend, is very, very important, because many times we would have known the ability that ये है और हमने sense भी कर लिया होगा, but we do not know to manage. And that is comes with self-management. Self-management. How do you manage yourself? The successful leaders are who have managed themselves. जैसे अभी सारे पैनलिस्ट ने कहा, अगर आप अपने आप को मैनेज कर पाओगे देन यू कैन मैनेज. अगर आपको, बिकॉज देयर आर सो मेनी पीपल फ्रॉम मैनेजमेंट, अगर आपने मैनेजमेंट पढ़ा हो, मैनेजमेंट, मैन MAN, एज AGEMEN, बिफोर यू कैन मैनेज द मेन, बहुत सारे लोगों को, टीम वालों को मैनेज करने से पहले यू हैव टू मैनेज योरसेल्फ, मैन. एंड दैट्स अगेन पिक्ड अप फ्रॉम जो खन्ना साहब ने बताया था कि आर्म फोर्सेस, they have to first manage them as a leader. They have to manage themselves. Then when they go in fact and manage themselves, then only they can command and lead from the front. And are we as faculty and gurus doing that? क्या हम अपने जो कहना चाहिए शिष्य हैं और स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनके साथ जुड़ करके उनके साथ एज अ टीम काम कर रहे हैं, एज अ लीडर काम कर रहे हैं? And that's what I'll give you 3 steps again. Learn, teach, lead. Learn, teach, lead. We have learned something. We have been teaching, but now the third stage is leading. So as we have to basically start displaying whatever those qualities which we have learned and what we have been talking. So walk the talk. Be the role models. Just don't be the teacher. Be the role model. Display those qualities, and I believe the people will get associated with you. The moment you do that, people will connect with you. And that's what is very, very important in the journey of emotional intelligence. And as faculty, I believe we are talking about क्लासरूम कैसे मैनेज करें. अब आपका वर्चुअल क्लासरूम हो गया है. हाउ डू यू रियली इमोशनली कनेक्ट? पहले तो आपको स्टूडेंट पहले दिखते थे फिजिकली, अब तो वर्चुअली दिखेंगे. जैसे हम और आप जुड़े हुए हैं, हम जूम पे भी लिंक्ड हैं और फेसबुक लाइव पे भी हैं. So are you really interacting with them? Yesterday I was talking to 130 faculty members, and after 2 hours, I believe not even a blip of an eye, somebody could blink from all around India, because the way you engage in a virtual session. अब आपके सामने स्टूडेंट फिजिकली नहीं है जिसको आप खड़ा कर दो, आप बोलो आप बोलो आप बोलो, और you can't physically shake the person. How do you really engage a person from the mindset, from your heart? दिमाग से और mindset और heart से आप कैसे लिंक करोगे? And the third aspect is what are the tools which you are using? And I'm going to give you a tool, my dear friends. एक tool दे रहा हूं आपको brain framework का. Mirror your brain for different kind of a mindset and thinking. Brain and brain acronym को मैंने थोड़ा सा उसको decipher किया है. Brain framework में the prescription है be curious. Be curious like a child. जैसे एक बच्चा curious होता है, you have to be curious like a guru से भी have to be curious. The most successful senior leaders are curious like a child. बहुत सारे उनका ऑब्जर्वेशन पावर बहुत स्ट्रांग होती है. हमें अपना बचपन छोड़ना नहीं है, हमने अपने दिल का बच्चा जिंदा रखना है, क्योंकि हम जैसे जैसे बड़े होते जाते हैं उस बच्चे को मार देते हैं. We don't have to do that. You have to be curious, observant, because a child is the most curious person. And child का एक और बहुत important पहलू होता है, he or she asks many questions. That is another parameter of my brain framework. You have to ask questions to your students. You have to listen more rather than talk more. You have to listen more rather than talk more. The third element of the brain framework is, are you proactive? आप क्या proactive हो? क्योंकि ये ना हो कि जब सिचुएशन खराब हो जाए, बच्चा बिल्कुल हाथ से निकल जाए, then we are talking उसका करियर खराब हो जाए. So are you proactive to guide him? Because आज बच्चा जो हाँ कॉलेज में है, फर्स्ट सेकंड थर्ड फोर्थ ईयर में, वो आज से 2 साल बाद 4 साल बाद जब बाहर निकलेगा, उस समय क्या सिचुएशन होगी इंडस्ट्री की, और आज का सिचुएशन में देखते हुए 2 साल बाद 1 साल बाद क्या होगा. We have to prepare our students for that. So we have to be proactive as gurus. And the fourth element of my framework is innovation and creativity, as all the panelists have said, is something very, very important. Everybody has to be innovative. Everybody has to be creative. And for that, my dear friends, beautifully said by many panelists, you have to pursue your hobbies. अपनी hobbies को pursue करिए, and that would help you to really take it forward. So these are the 5 elements of my brain framework. Be curious. Innovation is for everybody. Being proactive and empathy, because that's what is something very, very important, and asking questions. More listening, less talking. And that's what is exactly very important for this emotionally intelligent person to really engage with the students. So that's what many of you are asking those questions. So I've tried to answer that as part of my discussion. So let me straight away jump to one quick round of, it's called rapid fire round. Rapid fire round to all my panelists. And I'm going to come to you only for 2 minutes. I'm only going to come to you for 2 minutes, all my panelists. So in 2 minutes, you have to answer the question, what is the one last prescription? What is the one last prescription you want to give it to the faculty and students? What do you want to give it to the faculty and students for the next 2 years? अगले 2 साल के लिए आप क्या prescription देना चाहते हैं? Sunita ma'am, over to you for next 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. I think most of it has been answered by you yourself. See, maybe after this pandemic, things may not be the same, and there has definitely been a shift. So we need to learn a whole lot of new things. What is going to happen from what I see, maybe the kids who are in kindergarten or somewhere there, I don't think we don't even know what is going to be their jobs that are going to be there for them. It'll be maybe entirely a different world altogether. But at the moment, as you have already explained, that we need to be more taking more interest in our students, and especially one has to be watchful. One has to be very watchful when the kids are moving away, they're quieter, they are finding excuses not to be there. So the idea is to educate them, to see to it that they are reaching where they want to reach. And honestly speaking, more than talking about this, I'd like to talk about kids or youngsters doing things which they are not really interested in. They are doing it, as you said, because of their parents, the pressure, peer pressure. I am coming from a large family. Out of 7 brothers, 5 are IITians, and 1 is a surgeon, and my husband is a chartered accountant. Now, what happens is, so there's a lot of pressure on the kids. एंट्रेंस एग्जाम्स तो देना ही है, मतलब हमें इंजीनियरिंग आईआईटी में घुसना है. Now, it's not possible for everyone. Those times were different. This is a different time. And maybe somebody's got a different interest in life. But it is taken as a matter, it's taken for granted that these kids are going to do that. So somewhere we are the ones, we are putting a lot of pressure. I see a whole lot of youngsters in the family who are doing something like maybe fashion designing, maybe they are into music, they're into sports. After doing qualifying, maybe they've done their medical or they've done something else, they're doing something different. I know of this person, he is running an organization called Chetna. He was an engineer, he left his job and he's teaching street children. So आप ये देखें कि लोगों में courage is very important. So this is a quality to speak our minds, to know what we want. And invariably हमारे स्कूल लेवल पे पहुंचते पहुंचते हमारे बच्चों को I think उनको पता नहीं होता उन्हें क्या करना है. And we don't, as parents, we don't allow them to take a break. Okay, take a break. We think अरे 1 साल waste होगा, कब चलेगा? And education is also expensive. Parents are slogging it out. So, I mean, it's not a very good scenario. So maybe this time should be taken to get friendlier with them, know them more. As you said, the classroom sessions, there should be more interaction, more engaging them, little fun also, because you see, it's not nice. Sometimes there has to be some fun also for them to be bonding with the teachers. So as per me, a lot needs to be done, and especially I think the kids, we need to help them out. And as I was hearing Dr. Johari, I wanted to say that even if at college levels, school levels where we have these counselors and whatnot, why not have them at higher education? Maybe they can go for help if they know there's somebody. And nowadays there's no stigma. I think the youngsters are coming to know. So what is the big deal? I mean, let's have somebody who they can go to and talk to. Sometimes, because it's all, I think there's nothing that cannot be resolved by dialogue, which is a thing I go by always, whether it is breaking of strikes in a large unit, whether it's facing 10,000 labor union people or anything, I know it is going to be resolved by dialogue. So why not help people whichever way possible, by engaging, by having fun, doing things which are interesting. And I know it's very tough for teachers also, because online teaching is suddenly it's been thrust upon them. It's not very easy, but we all need to work through this. And as I said, go back to our ancient wisdom, and it has all the answers. They're all there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Straight away jumping to Pradeep ji. In fact, Pradeep Bhatia ji, please unmute yourself. Last words of wisdom from you.
Okay, right. My advice to everybody would be, you must stay positive. You're not alone in this crisis. We are all in it together. We'll all either sink or sail together, and nobody is going to sink. We will eventually emerge victorious. I know it for sure. Now use this time to enhance your personality, get rid of your shortcomings. Everybody is aware of his shortcomings. This is the ideal time to work on those shortcomings and make them your strengths. Communication skills is an extremely important requirement in any profession that you are in. If you are weak in this, if this is not your strong point, this is the right opportunity to make use of this time and improve on your communication skills, hone on this weakness. There's a financial loss we all have incurred. Some have lost their jobs, some are not getting paid, some are getting partially paid. But there's nothing to worry. You should be grateful to God that you are alive. You haven't perished because of this crisis. Corona hasn't taken your life. And eventually, once this crisis is over, you'll forget about this period and the financial loss. So that part you don't need to even think about. And we are on the verge of making a breakthrough as far as coming out with a vaccine is concerned. Countries like USA, Israel, India, Russia, they're almost done with this, with the making of a vaccine. Trials are underway, and very soon, I know it for sure, in a very short period of time, we'll come out with a vaccine and we'll get rid of this crisis which has been looming large over us for the last 4 months. And we must stay positive, look towards a better future. That's my take on it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, Dr. Thanks a lot, Pradeep ji. Over to where is my third panelist gone? I believe Rahul ji. I believe over to you, Rahul ji, for your final words of wisdom. Last 2 minutes. Rahul ji, over to you.
Thank you, Shailesh ji. To tell Sunita ma'am, yes, we have got now university counselors also in our own university as well as in all other university. Now, as per the UGC and the AICTE guidelines, it is mandatory to have the medical centers, not a full-fledged hospital, but yes, counselors are there. Doctors also sit for 2 to 3 hours per day, where the BTech, MTech, MCA, MBA students can actually go and interact with these counselors as such. Now, in these 2 minutes, I will just share the mindset of 2 sets of students. First is to 12th, those who have just completed their 12th and they're preparing for the NEET and the JEE main exam. Now, this is an exam continuously getting shifted. Now, putting a lot of stress on the students, because shifting does not mean giving 10 days or 20 days more time. It does not help them to improve. Whatever preparation was required, almost they're on through it. So they're under a lot of stress, a lot of under pressure, because these are the pandemic times. We really do not know what solution this virus has bring in the future as such. So those are the students are suffering a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Another set of students which are facing a lot of problems is the BTech final year students, because most of them, 90% of them got placed in the well of companies in the IT also as well as the management sector also. Now these companies are themselves facing financial problems. So most of the placements are either being deferred, some of them are being cancelled, and some of the companies which have promised them that after the internship they will hire them, they are not hiring them as such. So both the set of students, the 12th pass out as well as the BTech final year, are facing a lot of tension, a lot of problems. So those are the faculty members who have got these students in their families. Please talk to them, connect them, share their problems. Because if they share their problems, half of the problem does itself get sorted out. So listen to them, talk to them, share your own struggles, because that is what we do as a parents with our kids. Because then when they see okay, their parents have also struggled, then only they have reached there, then they are able to console themselves. Okay, things will get settled down sooner or later. So that's a submission from my side. Over to you, Shailesh ji.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Rahul. Dr. Rajesh ji, over to you, sir, for your final 2 minutes of words of wisdom, sir. Dr. Rajesh.
Thank you very much, and thank you all the panelists. From my side, I would just like to focus from the faculty perspective as well as the student perspective, that is to redefine the benchmark. Now, first of all, question the benchmark and find out the significance and relevance of the benchmark for all the aspects, whether it is placement, whether it is physical facility or our life standard, the requirement of different kind of things that we have. And it's time to redefine the benchmark so that we are able to come up with this COVID-19, post-COVID-19 also, we are able to use that learnings for our sustainable living. So that is the brief from my side. And before we go for the end of this session with moderation, I would just like to inform the participants that feedback link will be provided later on after the end of this session. So don't worry about the feedback link and the certificates. And I would request before we conclude to Shailesh, I have prepared a PPT which answers some of the questions asked by the participants. So I will not go in detail. If time permits, at least I would like to go through that, Shailesh sir.
Sir, I believe we are actually on 1 o'clock right now. So you suggest, I believe, because we are now at the overall time of 1 o'clock, what we had decided.
So I'll just share the bullet points here. Right.
Sure, go ahead.
So yeah. So first point that that was asked is how to manage it, how to manage the emotions. So the one point that came to my mind was to busy ourselves in the most important activity. You see, the distracting emotions will continue to come. We cannot stop that emotions to come. But what we can do to manage those emotions is to focus, keep ourselves busy in the most important activity as far as our profession is concerned. Now, the second thing is that to understand self, understand the relationships, and understand the physical facility, and try to live in a harmony. 80% of the time we spend to achieve the physical facility, the materialistic wealth. We ignore the hobbies, we ignore the self part, and we ignore the relationships. So if we try to make a harmony of these three aspects, I think we can be able to manage this emotional intelligence part. Now, another point that comes out is the process orientation versus the result orientation. Now, 99% of the time we invest our effort in the result orientation. But if we focus also on the process orientation, we can be able to nourish and get the advantage of emotional intelligence. Okay, one more point that struck my mind was the dichotomy of perfection or devotion. Everybody wants to be perfect in placements, in physical facilities, in name and fame and blank balances, right? But the benchmarks may be questionable. But what about the devotion? Everybody is living his or her life with a lot of devotion. We are not giving the devotion enough credit. So it is time to make a balance between perfection and devotion. If we tend to give only the credit to perfection and do not give credit to devotion, we might end up being frustrated. And thanksgiving and care, we tend to give thanks only to the superiors, those who are having the authority to decide our salary and other increments. But we tend to ignore the people at the same hierarchy or maybe at the lower hierarchy. So we should give the thanks and take care of those team members also. So that's all the bullet points I wanted to share to answer some of the questions which are asked by the participants. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, Dr. Rajesh, for summarizing it. I'll just give one prescription to everybody. If, friends, we have to differentiate as human beings in the era to come, agar hame insaniyat ke liye apne aap ko differentiate karna hai, because artificial intelligence, IoT, robotics, blockchain, cloud computing, all the technology and automation is going to be very, very intelligent. IQ is going to be very high. Humans are actually trying to manage the technology very well, but they are not the masters. We have to be the masters. And the only mastering skill is emotional intelligence. We have to be the, because robotic mein emotions nahi hote. So isiliye, that is what is very important. Just to give you the successful results come out of 75 to 80% from emotional intelligence and 25 to 30% from IQ, which is an intellectual quotient. So with that, I just wanted to share our partnership with United. And United Group के साथ हमारा जो बच्चों के साथ जो हमारा एक relationship बना है, I want to share a beautiful moment which we have celebrated with the students. आज इतने सारे गुरु हैं, तो इसलिए मैं उन सारे गुरुओं के लिए आपको नमन करना चाहता हूं यूनाइटेड कॉलेज ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग के स्टूडेंट्स से, बिकॉज दे आर द इंटर्न्स वर्किंग विद अस. ये सारे के सारे इंटर्न्स हैं हमारे साथ इन 3SR कंसल्टेंसी, एंड हाउ वी हैव कोलैबोरेटेड इन दिस टफ पीरियड. पिछले 2 से 3 महीने में इस पैंडेमिक में between an academic institution like Rajesh ji's and Mona ma'am's United College of Engineering Education and us as 3SR Consultancy, we have actually partnered in this journey. And I want to pay a gratitude to all the gurus here, what we have created today, absolutely together. And here it goes.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Dev. मेरा कोटि प्रणाम। गुरु माता पिता गुरु बंधु सखा, तेरे चरणों में स्वामी मेरा कोटि प्रणाम। गुरु माता पिता गुरु बंधु सखा, तेरे चरणों में स्वामी मेरा कोटि प्रणाम।
So friends, I would like to thank you with this very Guru Vandana के साथ आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा for being associated with us. So over to you, Dr. Rajesh, for the final word of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Rajesh.
So thanks, sir. I take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks. First and foremost, I pay my regards and thank our most respected Professor Dr. Mahesh Verma, sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor Guru Gobind Singh, Indraprastha University, for his inspiration and giving his best wishes for this FDP. I sincerely thank our esteemed resource persons, Dr. Rahul Johari, sir, Rotarian Sunita Khanna, ma'am, Lieutenant Colonel Pradeep Bhatia, sir, and Mr. Shailesh Gupta, sir, for enriching us on various roles of emotional intelligence in our life and in our career. I sincerely thank Shri Girdhar Gopal Gulati ji, Chairman, United Group of Institutions, for his inspiration and blessings. We would especially like to thank Ms. Mona Gulati Puri ma'am, CEO, United Group of Institutions, for guiding us as a mentor at every step of this FDP. This FDP wouldn't have been possible without active participation of faculties from about 15 states, ranging from Mizoram to Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and various other states, including Jammu and Kashmir. So we are deeply indebted to all the participants for their active participation, and I thank you all for the valuable questions that you have asked, which made this FDP really worthy of useful inputs for our practical application. And I thank the technical team for their support. We will be sharing the feedback link to the email ID, so don't worry about the feedback link and the certificates. So thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much.